Back to our live special report. We continue this conversation about kids and vaccines and answer your questions this morning. So if you have them, now is the time to add them under the live stream of the show. On Facebook right now, Dr. Marc Lashley, a pediatrician with Allied Physicians Group, is joining us to answer those questions this morning. We're going to start with Luca, who wants to know, could it be that myocarditis caused by the vaccine is way more serious than the one caused by natural infection?
Good question, Luca, but no, the vaccine myocarditis is extremely mild. Almost no one has been hospitalized or had any heart damage from the vaccine myocarditis. But real COVID, oh yes, that causes heart damage all the time. As a matter of fact, 3%, as I said earlier, get myocarditis with heart damage from COVID itself.
All right, Jamie wants to know, can I get my 70-pound 12-year-old the pediatric dose? As we said before, your body size does not matter when it comes to the dose. It has to do with your age, because the immune system in kids is different than the immune system of adults. So no, anyone 12 years old and older needs that adult dose. All right, Ed says, for those who say we shouldn't vaccinate our children to protect others, I guess they haven't heard of the rubella vaccine. When other children in school are vaccinated, it protects your child too.
Right, so this question is a great question. It talks about herd immunity. At first, we thought we needed a low herd immunity to get over COVID, but it turns out we need a much higher herd immunity because of the variants that have been happening. Look at what Delta did. Our rates were coming down, down, down. We thought, hey, we're getting that herd immunity. And then the virus mutated and a big spike occurred and shut down the economy and schools and made us all sick again. So we know that we need a much higher level of herd immunity to beat this pandemic.
RJ said, I'm over the moon excited to get my 11 and 8-year-olds vaccinated. Any thoughts on some suggestions to space out the first and second dose to 8 weeks?
So parents make vaccine decisions all the time about making their own schedules, et cetera. But if we want to look at the science and the data behind the vaccine, we know that the vaccine works at 21 days at a second dose. Any decision a parent makes to change that schedule or to lengthen it is just making their own experiment where we don't have any science to understand how the immune system will respond. So I recommend against that.
All right, LaDonna says there's concerns of giving the vaccine to children that have autism and epilepsy. What are your thoughts?
Well, these are extraordinarily vulnerable children, right? If you have epilepsy and you get COVID, and you might have terrible seizures. As a matter of fact, there was just a report in the Journal of Pediatrics that seizures can even be a first sign of COVID. So these children especially need to be vaccinated to be protected against the ravages of COVID and what it could do to them.
All right, Katie says, why is there no recognition of natural immunity? Research is saying now that natural immunity is better than vaccine.
Well, I disagree with that. I think we've all found that if you get COVID, you can get it again. The immunity to COVID wanes. It goes away after 90 days in many individuals. That's why we don't even recommend getting antibody titers, because you might have them today and tomorrow they might be gone. So we're finding that after 90 days, immunity wanes and people get COVID a second time. So I disagree with that person.
All right, Jennifer says, my question is, how can we be 100% sure that antibody-dependent enhancement will not become an issue with the current vaccine we're administering now and future variants that may emerge?
Well, the vaccine is safe. It causes a very good immune response. And the more people that are vaccinated, the less likely there is to be more variants. When the vaccine is allowed to run rampant, that's when it mutates and causes variants. So if we are able to shut down this pandemic by vaccinating a very large amount of Americans, then the vaccine has less chance to make variants.
All right, Kevin says the vaccines out now aren't even effective against Delta.
It's true that they're less effective. Delta is a smart little variant, and it learned how to get around some of our vaccine immunity, but it's not entirely ineffective. It's just slightly less effective, and that's why we need to vaccinate so many people to get rid of it.
All right, Leslie says, what medicine do we take if we get COVID regardless of being vaccinated?
So they have, for high-risk individuals, an antibody infusion, a monoclonal antibody infusion. The physician has to call the hospital and get it approved by infectious disease. These are for people who are at very high risk. I won't go into those people category now, but basically treating COVID is a lot like treating the flu. We have to take Tylenol and lots of fluids and rest. Soup, don't forget, my grandma always recommended that. But as long as you're hydrated, most people come through it just fine. I don't think there's any special medicine that's been approved that help people.
Yeah, we know those antivirals, they're putting in for approval, but they're not approved yet. We've got a couple, Merck.
And they're not approved in children either. Yeah.
All right, Kristen saying, how many kids and adults died from getting the shot?
I don't know of any who died from getting the shot. I know that some people get a flu-like illness. There have been some rare episodes of allergic reactions. Let me tell you a funny story, Elizabeth. I had a baby on my table for a 2-month vaccination, and I had the vaccine in my hand to give the baby the shots, and the mom said, "Dr. Lashley, we have the christening tonight. Can we give the shot another day?" And I said, "Sure, just come back next week. We'll give the baby's tetanus shot another day." That night, the baby had a seizure and a fever. And I said to the mom, "What would you have said to me if I gave that shot?" And she said, "I would have blamed it on the shot." And you know what? That's what happens a lot. If you vaccinate a whole bunch of people, bad things happen to people all the time. And if you give it in relation to a vaccine, people sometimes put those two things together, thinking of causality when it's not.
All right, we're going to continue to answer your questions straight ahead. We do see them coming in. You're watching The New Normal, a special report here on News 12.